Can I go? Alright, so interesting enough, I'll be talking about animal testing, of course, and of course the pro side of it. So I'll start off with my introduction, which is throughout human history, people have done their best to find ways to treat the ailments that plague humanity. From natural herbal remedies to lab-created chemical concoctions, there's no doubt that we've come a long way in developing vaccines and chemicals products to help combat dangerous diseases. One means by which we've used to advance our medical knowledge and develop these advances is through the use of live organism testing. And my proposition is animal testing is the most effective test for new medicine. My two supporting claims are that animal testing is a proven method that helps cure many diseases, and the second one is that biological testing is still an important part of making progress in medical science. So with my first supporting claim, I'll be talking about some of the examples of diseases and illnesses that have been cured via animal testing. The first one I'll be talking about, which is about the most archaic one, the oldest one, is diphtheria. This was actually such a world-renowned and amazing discovery that actually won the Nobel Prize in 1901. A quote from the actual Nobel Prize website itself is that in the 1880s and 1890s, Emil von Behring isolated the diphtheria toxin and demonstrated its effect in guinea pigs. He went on to demonstrate the immunity against diphtheria in animals in 1888 by injecting a mix of toxins and antitoxins. So essentially what this was is Emil von Behring, which is the founder of the diphtheria vaccine himself, he used guinea pigs as live test subjects to be able to find a cure for diphtheria, which at the time diphtheria was a very dangerous and debilitating poison or toxin, if you will, that built up in people's systems. But he was able to find, through animal testing, a way to find a vaccine for it and immunities for it then on. The second one would be diabetes, which is a more recent one. So from speakingandresearch.org in 2010, they said in a series of classical experiments during the summer of 1984, Canadian doctor Frederick Banting along with the student Charles Best managed to extract insulin they injected into the diabetic dog, which helped restore its health. So this was a research that they did. It didn't directly affect diabetes itself, curing it, but this was research that they did from animals to help extract insulin, which is something that diabetics desperately need, especially if you're one of the more severe types. So thanks to their research, they're able to cure one of the most common diseases that we have within America itself at this time. A more recent one is asthma inhalers. So from understandinganimalsresearch.org, 2014, a substance called leukotriene was discovered to be the principal cause for inflammatory conditions. Further studies with guinea pigs and primates resulted that the leukotriene receptor antagonist. So basically what they did is they researched on primates and things of that sort to create a new medicine for asthma patients, which was what we now know as asthma inhalers. Now this is pretty incredible research done because from the total world population, 1 in 12 people are diagnosed with asthma according to American Academy of Allergy, Asthma, and Immunology. And out of those 1 in 12 people, 1 in 5 of them need to use inhalers on a regular day basis. So thanks to this research, it's let these people, these 1 in 5 people, which are still hundreds of thousands of people, be able to live a normal, regular, everyday life. And now the most recent one that is currently in effect is Parkinson's disease. So this is a disease that is currently being researched quite heavily with animal research. And according to frontiersin.org 2014, Parkinson's disease is a neurodegenerative disorder that affects 1.5 global populations over 65 age. Hallmarks features of PD degeneration is the dopamine neurons, which leads to severe convulsions and eventually complete loss of muscle control. And further on in the article, they went in depth on how animal models were the best tools that they have to study the pathogenesis of Parkinson's disorder. So through the study of animal sciences, we haven't been able to cure Parkinson's disease outright, but we've been able to help slow the degeneration of the dopamine neurons, which help people with Parkinson's disorder live longer and more happy lives. And now I'll be going into my second claim, which is biological testing is still an important part of making progress in medical science. one of the big things that the opposition to animal science have is something called in vitro, and as we probably just heard, I'll go into the definition of what that is. So in vitro is essentially a petri dish that is cultivated and grown in said container to give scientists a group of human cells to work with. Now that's fantastic, but the one downside to that is it only grows a specific type of cells. A petri dish is only so big and you can only have so many human cells in there. And the big thing that animal research focuses on and really hones in on is how drugs affect the rest of the body. So there would be one drug that could affect the liver cells in one way, but once it has an effect, it could lead to failure in kidneys, but that is unable to be found with in vitro. And so also with in vitro, it also requires, for some types of it, via the sciencedirect.org in 2016, the maintenance of cells in cultural normally require the use of animal-derived serums. Although exact figures are hard to attain, but about 250,000 fetal cows are needed to supply the fetal bovine serum for grown in culture in vitro cells. So in conclusion, history has shown that animal research is an amazing thing that we have been using since nearly the dawn of time. We've relied it for many things today, which is penicillin, asthma inhalers, antidepressants, blood transfusion, vaccines, antibiotics, and way more. It is prudent to understand that we do need to find an alternative to animal testing, but as time is right now, there is nothing that can keep up with the accuracy and the precision that animal testing does have. So we have to keep sticking with it. Thank you.
Excuse me, what is your name again?
My name is Jake.
Okay, the structural stuff is all solid. Everything's previewed well. I think you can understand why there's a controversy here. We had a speech on this earlier in the evening, so that helps give you a little bit of a boost in suggesting that there's a reason that we talk about this. On the first point, I thought you did a nice job giving us historical context and then more recent examples to illustrate why there's a continuing need to have animals and the benefits that they're providing currently. And then on the second part, I thought it was sort of interesting that your discussion of in vitro at the end requires that we still continue to use animals to be able to do the very thing that is supposed to be the alternative to using animal research. And you've got a nice piece of factual data on that about how many fetal cows we have to use in order to get the materials that we need for in vitro research. So I thought that that was also pretty solid. You do a good job explaining why in vitro isn't necessarily going to work for some things. It would be nice to have some authoritative information to go along with that. I generally understand the point that you're making there. Presentation is a little problematic. There's a lot of reading. However, you did a nice job reading, and you usually got the pronunciation correct, so that counts for something. All right, thank you.
Like a disease that was cured by a doctor who just like gave themselves the vaccine. Oh. It's like he's a famous doctor.